Hi, this is Rust and Magic. So LightWave 2026 is just around the corner, so I thought we put up one more tips and tricks video before that. So this is one of my favorite tools in Modeler. I use it very often for all kinds of stuff. It's the jitter tool. It's nothing special, but it's very useful. So here I have a plane. It could be anything. It could be some kind of landscape or something. It's perfectly flat. It's split up in a number of polygons, so we can deform it a bit. And I'm going to activate the jitter tool here. And I have different modes. I'm going to get the Gaussian, which is the standard. The other one is the normal, is also good. So I'm going to set the jitter to 10 centimeters along the y-axis, so up here. That's all. The other ones I won't touch, and when we press OK, we get, well, jitter. So as you can see, we have small deformations, which is perfect for adding realism to anything. There's really no flat things in the real world like this. So this can add small details to water, concrete, roads, things like that. Let's take a look at a really good example here. Let's say we would like to animate this, for example. We can just create a morph. Let's press the M here and create a morph. Like this. We create standard like that, and then we use the jitter tool again and do a little bit more jitter to this, like that. And now we could have this, for example, to generate some nice little ripples on water in a pond, just a little bit tiny waves in the wind, very simple. Something like that. That's one example. Another good example is if we imagine we have the blue part is water here, and we have a rock side or something that the water runs by here. We're gonna add some deformation to the rock, so to speak, here later on, but let's take a look at the water here and using the jitter tool to actually make it look nicer. Here we have a perfectly straight line against the rock. The water looks very, well, it doesn't look like water. So if we use the jitter tool again here, and basically the same thing as before, we just add some jitter on the y-axis, and if we now look at this against the rock, even if we have a flat concrete wall or something, we have added a little bit of movement to it. It adds some life to the whole plane here, just this little tiny movement. So if we let's zoom in a little bit, let's just set the surface to smooth here, like that. That's fine for now. We just want to show the actual jitter. We don't care about the actual material here. So let's zoom in a little bit here. Let's see, good angle here, something like that. And then we get closer. You see here, just that little tiny movement adds a lot of life to this. And it with some nice textures here and stuff, this will really look much, much more realistic. For the last example, I'm gonna play around with materials in layout here. So I like to do comic style renders. I don't do that many realistic renders, but I don't want to use the cell shader and outlines and things like that. I want somewhere between realism and cartoonish style, but I don't want to use the cell shader. I want it a little bit more realistic. So the idea here is, of course, that if you want to render realistic, you can do that with LightWave, no problem. It can render fantastic images. But if you do that, you have to go all the way. You can't skip on details. Everything has to be very, very realistic, otherwise it looks wrong. So it takes a lot of work. So to do some kind of comic style work, it's much better to make sure it doesn't look realistic, because then no one expects realism and you don't need to be so super picky with everything, small little details that you otherwise need to get in there. So to do that, let's take a look and see if we can get something like that. So this is just a simple imported OBJ, so that's really not very realistic, but it's enough for this purpose. We have some specularity, there's no reflections really or anything like that, but it looks close enough. But let's make it more cartoonish. So one way to do that, we have very smooth diffusion, and that is what you usually see in cell shading. And without actually using cell shading, we can kind of accomplish a similar thing. We have something called diffuse sharpness in the standard materials, and that can be used to do that. You see, we have a very smooth, when it goes for diffusion from light to a little bit darker here, and if we select all the materials and change this to 100%, we get a very sharp edge between the diffusion border there, and this adds quite a bit more like cell shading. Even if it's not real cell shading, we still have all the real colors, and we don't have to go 100%. Of course, we can set it to 50% or something like that if you want something in between to get a little bit softer edge between, like this. It's a matter of taste, but it gives you a little bit of cartoonish look without actually having to go there. If you then take down specularity to 0 and just add it a tiny bit where you need it, you can get a quite nice look here. I didn't do this to the chrome. You have to play around a little bit with that, depending on what you want here, if you want reflections or not, and so on. But the diffuse sharpness is something I use quite a lot when I don't want realistic renders. It's an easy way to get a cartoonish style without actually having to replace all the shaders and so on. So this is just one example. It's really good to play around with the diffuse sharpness together with specularity to get what you want. Just an idea. I use it quite a lot, and hey, maybe you'll have some use for it too. This has been around for ages, so it's in all versions of LightWave. Okay, that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you found something interesting, and yeah, thank you very much for watching, and soon 2026 is on the way.